Hey, Stock Explorers, ready for a deep dive?
Always.
Today, we're going to take a close look at Cella's Life Sciences.
Oh, interesting.
They're a biotech company,
Okay.
and they're working on treatments for acute myeloid leukemia.
AML.
Yep, AML.
Got it.
They just finished up a $25 million stock offering.
Mm.
So we're going to try to figure out why they did that,
Okay.
especially because of how their phase 3 Regal trial is going.
Yeah, the Regal trial, that's focusing on a really specific group of AML patients, right?
Exactly.
The ones who have achieved a second complete remission, or CR2,
Right, CR2.
but they can't get a bone marrow transplant.
Yeah, they aren't eligible.
It's a tough situation for them, not many options.
Definitely. And historically, those patients haven't had good survival rates.
Not good at all.
So it's critical that new treatments are found.
It is, absolutely.
So tell me more about Cella's treatment.
Sure.
What makes their approach stand out?
Well, their lead candidate is called Galinpepimut-S, or GPS.
GPS.
Uh-huh. And it's a first-of-its-kind immunotherapy.
Interesting. So it's not like chemo.
No, it's different.
How so?
GPS works by teaching the body's own immune system to recognize and then get rid of the cancer cells.
So it's like training the body to fight back on its own.
Right, like giving your immune system a personalized, wanted poster.
I like that analogy.
It helps visualize it.
So what exactly is on this wanted poster?
It's targeting a protein called WT1.
Okay.
You find this protein a lot in AML cells.
So it's like a red flag for the immune system.
Exactly.
Now I'm starting to see why this is so interesting.
Yeah, it's got a lot of potential.
But let's go back to the Regal trial for a second.
Okay.
What have the results been like so far?
So the interim analysis, this was triggered after 60 patient deaths,
Got it.
showed that the GPS patients had a median survival of at least 13.5 months.
Wow.
To put that in perspective, the historical median survival for these patients has been around 6 months.
So more than double the time.
Yeah, more than double.
That's incredible.
And keep in mind, right now, there's no drug that's approved for maintaining remission just for CR2 AML patients.
Right.
So if the final analysis shows the same thing as the interim analysis, GPS would be the very first.
That would be a game changer.
Huge, not just for Cellas, but for patients and their families.
Absolutely.
This could really give them hope.
So let's talk about that $25 million stock offering.
Sure.
Why would Cella's raise money at this point in time?
Well, they want to get FDA approval for GPS.
Of course.
And that takes money.
Right. So this funding is for that final push.
Exactly. They're gearing up to submit what's called a biologics license application.
A BLA.
Yeah, and it'll be based on the results from the full Regal trial.
So it sounds like they're pretty confident in GPS.
Definite. They're putting their money where their mouth is.
I like it. They're not just talking, they're taking action.
Right, and that speaks volumes.
It does.
They're already preparing for if and when the FDA approves GPS.
That makes a lot of sense, especially with the potential market size we're talking about.
Yeah, it's a big market.
But let's be realistic for a moment.
Okay.
Biotech investments are risky.
They are, especially when you're dealing with a clinical stage company like Cellis.
Exactly. So what are some things investors should think about?
Well, dilution is one thing to consider.
Dilution.
Yeah, when a company puts out new shares, like with this offering,
Okay.
it can lower the value of the shares people already own.
So even though this stock offering could be a good sign for GPS,
It could be.
it also means the current shareholders now own a smaller piece of the company.
Right, it's like cutting the pie into more slices.
So investors have to weigh the positives and negatives.
They do, it's a trade-off.
But on the other hand, if GPS is successful and the FDA approves it,
Right,
Cellas could become much more valuable.
exactly, which could help offset the dilution.
So it's a bit of a gamble.
Like all biotech investments, high risk, but high reward.
Okay, so we've got a company with a promising therapy, some good clinical trial data, and they're investing a lot to get it approved. What should we be watching for next?
The final analysis of the Regal trial is the big one.
When is that expected?
Later this year, we'll get a much clearer picture of how effective GPS really is.
Okay, so we're all waiting for that data.
Definitely.
If it confirms what we saw in the interim analysis, it could be huge for Cellas' stock.
No question about it.
And then what?
Then they'll submit their BLA to the FDA, another big milestone.
So there's a lot to keep an eye on.
Lots happening.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive into Cella's Life Sciences.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about their immunotherapy GPS, the results from the Regal trial,
Uh-huh.
and why they decided to do this stock offering.
Yeah, it's all connected.
It is, and in part 2, we'll take a look at their other drug candidate, SLS-009.
Oh, yeah, SLS-009, that's a whole other story.
It is, and we'll also get into their business development activity.
Okay, sounds good.
So make sure you tune in for part 2 of our deep dive into Sella Life Sciences.
Should be interesting.
It should be.
It's really interesting,
What is?
how Cella isn't just focusing on GPS.
Right, even though it's looking so promising.
Exactly, it's like they're hedging their bets.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, they're building up a whole portfolio of cancer-fighting weapons.
I like that analogy.
I was reading about another drug they have, SLS-009.
Oh, yeah, SLS-009.
Tell me about that one.
Well, SLS-009 is a totally different approach. It's what's called a small molecule drug,
Okay.
and it's a highly selective CDK9 inhibitor.
Okay, break that down for me.
What does all that mean?
Right, why should we care about that?
Good question.
So CDK9, think of it as an enzyme,
Okay,
and cancer cells need it to grow.
got it.
So SLS-009, what it does is it blocks this enzyme, and that messes up those processes the cancer cells need.
So it's like cutting off their supply line,
Yeah, exactly.
and this could lead to those cancer cells dying.
Right, potentially.
And you said it was highly selective.
I did.
What does that mean?
It means it's really good at targeting just CDK9. And that's important because it minimizes the damage to healthy cells.
So fewer side effects.
Exactly. And side effects are a big problem with the usual cancer treatments.
They are, for sure.
So minimizing those is a huge plus.
So where is SLS-009 at right now?
In terms of development.
Yeah.
Well, Cella's has been running a phase 2 clinical trial
Okay.
with patients who have relapsed or refractory AML.
Meaning their AML came back or didn't respond to treatment.
Right.
So these are really tough cases.
They are.
What did the trial show?
Well, they put out some positive top-line data recently.
Okay.
Showed that it's well tolerated.
That's good.
Yeah, and there were good signs of efficacy, too.
Like what kinds of signs?
So overall survival is one key thing to look at.
Makes sense.
With this group of patients, the historical median overall survival is only about 2.5 months.
Wow. That's
Not long.
No, it's not.
But for the patients who got SLS-009,
Yeah.
they haven't even hit the median yet.
Really?
Yeah, but it's already more than 7.7 months.
So that's triple the historical average.
More than triple.
That's impressive.
It is.
Anything else?
Oh, yeah. They also reported a really good overall response rate.
What was it?
56%.
56%.
In patients with AML MRC.
What's AML MRC?
It's a subtype of AML,
Okay.
and it's super aggressive and tough to treat.
So even in those patients,
SLS-009 was effective.
that's a good sign.
It is.
So it seems like SLS-009 could be another big win for Cella's.
Potentially.
What's next for SLS-009?
Well, they're going to release all the data from the phase 2 trial later this year.
Okay.
And they're going to start a phase 3 trial soon.
So things are moving pretty fast.
They are.
Sounds like Cella's doing really well right now.
Yeah, both GPS and SLS-009 are looking good.
It's exciting to see.
And they're not stopping there.
Oh.
No, they've been smart about making partnerships and licensing deals.
To expand their pipeline.
Exactly, to get access to new technology.
They're thinking bigger than just AML.
They are. They want to treat a whole range of cancers.
That makes sense. Diversify their portfolio.
That's right. Spread their bets.
Increase their chances of success.
Exactly.
But we can't forget about the competition.
True.
There are a lot of companies working on AML treatments.
The market is getting crowded?
How does Cella's compare to the others?
Good question.
There's some big companies out there, right?
Yeah. And they already have AML treatments.
Plus, all the smaller companies trying to get a piece of the market.
It's a competitive space.
And a lot of the existing AML treatments are generic now, right?
They are.
So they're cheaper.
That's a challenge for Cella's.
Yeah, pricing could be an issue.
It could,
Right.
but Cella's has some advantages.
Like what?
Well, both GPS and SLS-0009 are first-in-class therapies. They work in ways that no other drugs do.
So they're unique.
Exactly.
And that could give them some pricing power.
It could.
What else?
Both therapies might be able to be used earlier in treatment,
Oh,
so patients could take them for longer.
Which means more revenue for Cella's.
Right.
So even if they're not the cheapest option.
They could be more valuable over time.
I see.
But we do have to keep in mind all the new therapies coming out.
So we've talked about the science,
Uh-huh.
the pipeline, the competition.
Yeah.
What about regulations?
The FDA.
The FDA can be a big hurdle for biotech companies.
They can make or break a company.
So what does Cella's need to do?
They need to keep showing that their therapies are safe and effective.
In clinical trials.
Yep. That's how they'll meet the FDA's standards.
Which are pretty strict.
They are.
And then what?
If they get approval, they have to figure out how to actually get their therapies to patients.
And get them covered by insurance.
Exactly. It's a whole other process.
It's a long road.
It is, and it's expensive.
But it's all worth it if they can help people.
That's what it's all about.
Getting these treatments to the patients who need them.
Absolutely, that's the goal.
Okay, I think we've got a pretty good understanding of Cella's now.
We've covered a lot.
They've got some exciting therapies.
They do.
A good pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
They're making smart moves.
Yeah.
But they also face some challenges.
Like any company.
Like competition.
Right.
And the whole regulatory process.
Always there.
It's a reminder that biotech investing is risky.
It is, but the rewards can be big too.
Both financially and for patients.
Absolutely. It's a unique industry.
Speaking of rewards and risks,
Yeah.
let's talk about Cellus's financials.
Okay.
How are they doing money-wise?
Well, they're not profitable yet.
Not surprising.
Most clinical stage biotech companies aren't.
They're still spending a lot on R&D.
They are investing in the future.
Exactly.
But their cash position is pretty good right now.
Thanks to the stock offering.
That helped.
And they're looking at other ways to raise money, too.
Partnerships, licensing deals, grants.
They're exploring all their options.
And they're managing their expenses well.
Being careful.
Yeah, and if their trials keep showing good results.
They should be able to get more funding.
That's the hope.
So Celsus is a company with potential, but there are risks, too. They've got a strong pipeline, good management, and they're making strategic decisions.
Trying to set themselves up for success.
Definitely a company to keep an eye on.
I agree.
But investors need to do their homework.
Always.
Understand the science, the market, the risks.
It's essential.
Before they invest.
Right. Knowledge is power.
Good advice.
I try.
Now, before we wrap up this part, there's one more thing I want to touch on.
What's that?
Cellas isn't just developing therapies.
No.
They're also thinking about the ethical side of things.
That's important.
It is.
New treatments come with new ethical questions.
Exactly. It's not just about the science.
It's about the impact on patients and society.
I'm glad you brought that up.
It's something we need to discuss.
So let's get into those ethical considerations.
Okay.
In the final part of our deep dive. Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in all the excitement, you know.
Oh, yeah.
The science, the potential profits.
Right,
But we can't forget about the people involved.
Of course not, especially when you're dealing with treatments that could save lives.
Exactly.
There are a lot of ethical questions we need to think about.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Well, access and affordability.
All right.
These new treatments are usually super expensive.
They are.
And that makes you wonder, who gets to benefit from them?
Right. Who gets left out?
It's about fairness.
It is.
Equity in healthcare.
Should your ability to pay determine whether you get a life-saving treatment?
It's a tough question.
It really is.
No easy answers.
There's also the balance between benefits and risks.
Especially with these experimental treatments.
Yeah, we don't know everything about their long-term effects.
Exactly. So informed consent is super important.
Patients need to know what they're getting into.
Both the good and the bad.
And that consent needs to be genuine.
No pressure, no coercion.
Patients need to feel in control.
Right. They should be making these decisions with their doctors.
It's a partnership.
It is.
And we can't forget about the ethics of the clinical trials themselves.
Oh, absolutely.
They need to be well designed.
Definitely.
Patients need to be protected.
From unnecessary risks.
And the data has to be handled responsibly.
All of that is critical.
But at the same time,
yeah,
we need to get these treatments to patients quickly.
They're suffering.
It's a tough balance.
A very delicate balance.
It's a reminder that science and ethics need to go together.
They do, always.
We can't have one without the other.
We need to celebrate the progress.
Yes.
But also keep asking the tough questions.
Well said.
Thanks.
So, as we've seen with Cellas, they're really pushing the boundaries.
They are.
When it comes to AML treatments.
Innovative therapy.
But with any new, powerful technology.
You have to think about the implications.
The ethical implications.
For sure.
And that's a responsibility for everyone.
The companies, the doctors, society as a whole.
Investing in biotech isn't just about making money.
It's about more than that.
It's about supporting companies that are trying to save lives.
And doing it the right way.
In a way that benefits everyone.
Progress with a purpose.
That's a great way to put it.
Thanks.
Well, thanks for joining us on Stock Explorers.
It's been a pleasure.
For this deep dive into Sella Life Sciences.
A fascinating company.
And the future of AML treatment.
It's a rapidly changing field.
It is. So much happening.
And Cella is right there in the middle of it.
Make sure you subscribe to Stock Explorers for more
deep dives
into the biotech world.
We'll keep you updated.
And don't forget to like this episode and hit that notification bell.
So you don't miss anything.
Thanks for listening.